Hello, everyone.
Welcome back to the A1 English Podcast, the show where we help you speak real, natural English, one small habit at a time.
I'm Jack.
And I'm Jessica. We're so happy you're here with us today.
Before we start, quick reminder, if you're learning English and you want to improve naturally, don't forget to like this episode and subscribe to our channel.
Yes, because when you subscribe, you're not just supporting us, you're supporting your own English learning journey.
Okay, so today we're talking about a tiny word that causes a big problem.
A tiny word? Which one?
Actually.
Oh no, I think I know where this is going.
Yes, today's topic is stop overusing actually. It makes you sound defensive.
This is such an important topic, Jack. So many English learners use this word without even noticing it.
Exactly. And here's the strange part. Most people learn actually as a polite word, a soft, friendly word. But in real conversations, when you use it too much, it can make you sound like you're arguing, correcting, or defending yourself.
And the person listening to you might feel a little attacked, even if that was never your intention.
Right. So by the end of this episode, you'll understand exactly when actually helps you and when it quietly hurts you.
Not perfect English, but confident, warm, natural English. That's our goal every single episode.
So, let's start easy. No stress, no boring grammar rules.
Just real English, real conversations, real life.
Okay, Jessica, let me ask you something. When you were learning English, did anyone ever tell you that actually was a dangerous word?
Never. Actually, I thought it made me sound smart and precise.
You just used it right there, and it sounded totally fine. That's the tricky part of this topic.
True. Actually is not a bad word. The problem is not the word itself.
Exactly. The problem is frequency and tone. When you say actually one time in a conversation, it can sound thoughtful. But when you say it 5 times in 5 minutes, it starts to sound like you're constantly correcting the other person.
And here's something interesting. In many languages, learners translate a word like actually from their own language, and in their language, it sounds neutral. But in English, especially in casual conversation, actually carries a small emotional weight.
Let's start with the basics. What does actually really mean?
In simple words, actually means in truth or in fact. We use it to show that the real situation is different from what someone expected or different from what was just said.
So it's a contrast word. It signals what you think is true is not exactly true.
Exactly. And that's powerful because every time you say it, you are quietly telling someone, you are wrong and I am right.
Even if you don't mean it that way.
Even if you don't mean it that way. That's the danger.
Now, why do people overuse it? Usually it's because actually is one of the first useful words they learn for disagreeing politely, so it becomes a safety word. They reach for it again and again.
And also because in their native language, they have a similar word that they use very often, so the habit just transfers directly into English.
But today, we're going to fix that habit.
We'll explain this using real conversations, not textbook examples.
Because real life is the best teacher.
All right, let's talk about the first key point, actually as a correction word.
This is super important because it's the most common way people accidentally sound defensive.
When you use actually to correct someone directly, it can feel like a small verbal slap, even in a friendly conversation.
Let me give you a real-life example. Okay, I'm listening. Imagine you're at work, and your coworker says, "The meeting is at 3 p.m." And you say, "Actually, it's at 3:30.
That sounds simple, but something feels a little sharp about it.
Exactly. Now, many learners think this is completely normal and neutral, but listen to how it changes with just a small adjustment.
Try this instead. Oh, I think it might be 3:30. Let me double check. Same information, completely different feeling.
Do you hear the difference? The first sentence sounds like you're correcting a mistake. The second sentence sounds like you're simply adding helpful information.
So the correct habit is soften the correction. You don't need to remove actually from your vocabulary completely. You just need to notice when it's doing too much work.
Let's give another example to make it even clearer.
Good idea.
Think about a conversation between friends. One friend says, "I heard the new coffee shop downtown is amazing." And the other says, "Actually, I went there last week and it was overpriced."
That word actually turns a friendly comment into a small correction. It puts the two friends on opposite sides.
Now compare it to this. "I went there last week. Honestly, it felt a bit overpriced to me." No actually, same opinion, but it feels like sharing, not correcting.
And notice how the second version uses to me, which shows this is your personal opinion, not a universal fact.
Exactly. That's the key. Personal framing softens disagreement.
So remember, when you want to correct information, ask yourself, do I need actually, or can I just add my information gently?
Not complicated at all, right?
Not at all. It's a small shift with a big effect on how people feel around you.
Okay, now let's move to the second key point. Actually as a defense word.
This one is equally important, maybe even more common.
This happens when someone questions you, challenges you, or even just asks a simple question and you respond starting with actually, as if you're protecting yourself.
Let's make this super practical.
Imagine your manager asks, "Did you finish the report?" And you answer, "Actually, I finished it yesterday."
What's wrong with that response?
Nothing is technically wrong grammatically, but it can unconsciously sound like, "You doubted me and I need to defend myself."
Because actually here suggests there was some kind of accusation, even when the manager was just asking a normal question.
Exactly. Instead, you could simply say, "Yes, I finished it yesterday." Clean, confident, no defensive energy at all.
Now, here's a common mistake learners make in this situation.
Oh, let's talk about mistakes. These are so helpful for our listeners.
People often say things like, actually, that's not what I meant, when someone simply asks them to clarify something.
And the problem with that is it turns a simple clarification into a mini argument even when nobody was arguing.
So instead, we should say, let me explain what I meant, or I think there's a small misunderstanding. Let me clarify.
Much better. It sounds calm, not defensive.
Let's practice one more time. Someone says, I thought you were coming to the party. How would you respond without sounding defensive?
Everyone listening, pause for a second. How would you say it?
Here's a strong option. Oh, I ended up staying home. Sorry I didn't mention it earlier. Warm, honest, zero defensiveness.
Did you get something similar? If yes, amazing. If not, don't worry. That's exactly why we're practicing this together.
Learning takes time, and small habits like this take conscious practice to change.
All right, Jessica, let's talk about the specific mistakes people make with actually.
Yes, because seeing the mistake clearly is the fastest way to fix it.
Mistake number 1. Starting almost every sentence with actually during a conversation, even when there's no contrast or disagreement at all.
Oh, I hear this all the time. Someone says, actually, I like pizza, when nobody said anything about pizza in the first place.
The correct way is simply, I like pizza. No contrast is needed, so actually adds nothing except a slightly sharp tone.
And why does that happen? Because for many learners, actually has become a filler word like or well, rather than a meaningful connector.
Mistake number 2. Using actually when giving your opinion, which can make your opinion sound like a fact you're forcing on someone.
This one is tricky because opinions already feel personal, and actually adds even more weight to them.
For example, someone says, I think the movie was okay,
and you respond, "Actually, it was terrible."
That sentence sounds like you're declaring the truth, not sharing your personal taste.
The fix is simple. "Honestly, I didn't enjoy it that much," or "I actually felt differently about it," where "actually" is placed gently in the middle, softened by tone.
See? Not scary at all, just a small shift in position and softness.
And the last common mistake, using "actually" repeatedly in professional emails or messages, which can make written communication feel cold or confrontational.
Many learners think this makes them sound precise and professional, but actually, it can make written messages feel abrupt.
For example, "Actually, the deadline was Monday, not Friday," sounds like a complaint. Instead, try, "Just a quick note, the deadline was actually Monday, so let's plan around that."
Softer opening, actually placed later in the sentence, and a solution added at the end. Completely different feeling.
Now, if you notice yourself making these mistakes, don't panic.
Everyone does this. Even native speakers overuse actually sometimes without noticing.
The important thing is to keep speaking, keep noticing, and keep adjusting.
Awareness is the first step toward natural, warm communication.
Okay, let's put everything together with some real alternatives you can use instead of "actually."
Yes, let's make this really practical for our listeners.
First option, use "honestly" when sharing an opinion. It feels personal and warm instead of corrective.
Second option, use I think or in my experience when you disagree gently. It shows this is your perspective, not a universal truth.
Third option, use "just to clarify" when you're correcting information, not correcting a person.
And fourth option, sometimes the best alternative is simply removing actually completely and letting your sentence stand on its own.
Let's imagine a full scenario using everything we learned today.
Perfect. Let's do it.
Imagine you're at a family dinner and your uncle says, "I heard English is the easiest language to learn." You disagree, but you want to stay warm and respectful.
First, you could say, "That's interesting. I've actually heard some different opinions about that."
Then you could add, "In my experience, every language has its own challenges."
And finally, "I think it really depends on your native language and how much you practice."
See how natural that sounds? No defensiveness, no correction energy, just a warm, respectful exchange of ideas.
This is real English, not textbook English.
Now, everyone listening, I want you to try something.
Think of a sentence where you would normally start with actually and rewrite it using one of our 4 alternatives.
Say it out loud, even if you're alone at home.
Practice builds confidence, and confidence builds natural, comfortable English.
And if you make a mistake, say it again.
That's exactly how learning works.
Now, before we move to the summary, let's go through a quick round of real-life scenarios, back to back, so you can really feel the difference.
I love this part. Okay, scenario 1. You're texting a friend and they say, "Are you free this weekend?" You want to say no, but nicely.
A defensive version might sound like, "Actually, I'm busy this weekend." It's not terrible, but it can feel a little abrupt in a text message.
A warmer version would be, "I wish I actually have plans already, but let's plan something soon." Notice how actually is buried in the middle, softened by "I wish" at the start.
Scenario 2. Your classmate says, "I think the exam is next Tuesday." You know it's actually Thursday.
Defensive version, "Actually, it's Thursday." Very short, very flat, almost sounds like you're annoyed.
Warmer version, "Oh, I have it marked as Thursday on my calendar. Let's double check together." This shares the same correction, but it invites teamwork instead of creating distance.
Scenario 3, a friend asks, "Did you like the restaurant I recommended?" You didn't love it.
Defensive version, "Actually, it wasn't that great." A little blunt, and it might make your friend feel embarrassed for recommending it.
Warmer version, "It was good, though it wasn't really my style, but I'm glad we tried it." Honest, kind, and it protects the relationship.
Scenario 4, and this one is a classic. Someone in a meeting says, "I believe our sales grew by 10%. You know the real number is 12%.
Defensive version, "Actually, it was 12%. In a professional setting, this can sound like you're publicly correcting someone in front of others.
Warmer version, just to add some detail, the final number came in at 12%. This keeps the correction professional, respectful, and focused on the information, not the person.
Do you see the pattern forming here, everyone? In almost every scenario, the fix isn't deleting information, it's changing where you place actually, softening your opener or replacing it with a warmer phrase.
Exactly. English isn't only about grammar rules, it's also about emotional intelligence. The same fact delivered differently can build trust or accidentally create distance.
And that's really the heart of today's lesson. Words carry feeling, not just meaning.
All right, let's answer a few questions we imagine our listeners might be thinking about right now.
Great idea. First question, does this mean I should never use the word actually again?
Not at all. Actually is a completely normal, useful word. You can absolutely use it when you genuinely want to highlight a surprising contrast, like, I thought I would hate the movie, but actually I loved it.
In that sentence, actually adds emotion and surprise, and it sounds completely natural, not defensive at all.
The goal isn't to erase the word, it's to notice the pattern of overusing it in corrections and defenses, especially at the start of almost every sentence.
Second question, how do I know if I'm overusing it?
Good question. A simple trick is this. Record yourself speaking for 2 or 3 minutes about any topic, then listen back and count how many times you say actually.
If you say it once or twice in a natural way, that's completely fine. But if you say it 5 or 6 times, especially at the beginning of sentences, that's a sign to slow down and add more variety.
Third question. What if actually is very common in my native language and it feels strange to remove it?
This is so common, and it makes total sense. Many languages have a similar word that people use constantly, and it doesn't carry the same defensive feeling in that language.
The trick here isn't to fight your instincts, it's to build new instincts, slowly, through practice. Every time you notice yourself about to say actually, pause for 1 second and ask, do I need this or can I say it more gently?
Over time, this pause becomes automatic, and your English starts to sound noticeably warmer and more confident.
Okay, let's do a rapid practice round. I'll give you a defensive sentence, and Jessica, you'll turn it into a warmer version, right here, live.
I'm ready. Let's go.
Number 1. Actually, that's wrong.
Warmer version. I think there might be a small mistake here. Let's check it together.
Number 2. Actually, I already told you that.
Warmer version. I mentioned that earlier. Just wanted to make sure it was clear.
Number 3. Actually, I disagree.
Warmer version. I see it a little differently. Can I share my thoughts?
Number 4. Actually, that's not my job.
Warmer version. I think that might belong to a different team. Let me check who handles it.
Number 5, and this is a tough one. Actually, you're the one who's confused.
Warmer version. I think we might be understanding this differently. Let's slow down and go through it together.
Wow, every single one of those instantly feels calmer, more respectful, and honestly more professional too.
That's the power of small language choices. Same message, completely different emotional result.
And notice something important. None of these warmer versions hide the truth or avoid the correction. They still communicate exactly the same information.
Exactly. This isn't about being fake or avoiding honesty. It's about delivering honesty with warmth instead of friction.
Now let's talk about something really practical, the grammar spot. Where exactly can actually go in a sentence, and how does the position change the feeling?
This is such a useful point, because most learners only know one position, the very beginning of the sentence.
Right, and that beginning position is usually the strongest, most direct, and sometimes the most defensive-sounding position.
So, position number 1, at the start, actually, I finished the project already. Direct. A little sharp.
Position number 2, in the middle, right before the main verb or main information. I actually finished the project already. Notice how it feels softer, almost like a light emphasis instead of a correction.
Position number 3 at the end of the sentence, which is very common in casual spoken English. I finished the project already, actually. This version sounds relaxed, almost like you're thinking out loud.
So, here's a simple rule you can remember. The closer actually is to the beginning of the sentence, the stronger and more direct it feels. The closer it is to the middle or end, the softer and more casual it feels.
That's such a useful trick. So if you're worried about sounding defensive, simply try moving actually away from the start of your sentence.
Let's practice this quickly. Take the sentence, actually, that's a good point. Where could we move actually?
We could say, that's actually a good point, which feels warmer and more like a genuine compliment.
Or even, that's a good point, actually, which sounds relaxed and conversational, almost like you're thinking out loud.
Beautiful. Such a small change in word order, but it completely transforms the emotional temperature of the sentence.
Let's add one more layer to this topic, a quick cultural note, because English sounds a little different depending on where it's spoken.
Yes, this is important. In American English, especially in casual conversation, people often try to avoid sounding too corrective. So actually, at the start of a sentence can feel especially blunt.
In British English, actually is used very frequently, sometimes even as a polite softener, like in, actually, would you mind passing the salt? So the feeling can shift depending on tone, context, and accent.
And that's exactly why we always say grammar rules alone won't make you sound natural. You also need to notice tone, rhythm, and how native speakers actually use words in daily life.
So don't worry if this feels like a lot to remember all at once. The goal today isn't perfection, it's awareness. Just start noticing, and the adjustments will come naturally with practice.
Exactly. Awareness first, then small adjustments, then eventually it becomes automatic and effortless.
Let's take one more listener question before we wrap up today's episode.
Sure, go ahead.
Someone might be wondering, what other words accidentally sound defensive besides actually?
Great question. Words like obviously, clearly, and technically can create a very similar effect when overused.
For example, obviously that's not going to work sounds much more confrontational than, I don't think that approach will work for us.
And technically you're wrong sounds much sharper than, I think there might be a small detail we're missing here.
So really, this entire lesson isn't only about one single word, it's about a whole category of words that can unintentionally sound like corrections or judgments.
Once you understand this pattern with actually, you'll start noticing it everywhere, and you'll naturally soften your English across many different situations, not just this one word.
That's such a valuable takeaway. One lesson, but a skill that applies to your entire way of speaking.
Exactly. And that's the kind of English fluency we care about here on this podcast. Not just grammar, but real human connection.
Before we go, let's leave you with a small homework challenge for this week.
I love homework challenges. They make the lesson actually stick.
Here it is. For the next 3 days, pay attention every time you say the word actually in conversation, in your head, or even in a message you're typing.
You don't need to change anything yet. Just notice it. Notice where it appears in the sentence, and notice what feeling it creates in that moment.
On day 2, try replacing it once or twice with one of our alternatives, honestly, I think, or simply moving it to the middle of the sentence.
And on day 3, try a full conversation, maybe with a friend, a coworker, or even talking to yourself while practicing, where you consciously soften every correction or disagreement.
This might feel a little slow or awkward at first, and that's completely normal. Every new habit feels strange before it feels natural.
But after just a few days of this small awareness exercise, you'll start noticing a real difference, not only in how others respond to you, but in how confident and calm you feel while speaking.
And here's a bonus tip. If you want extra practice, try writing 3 sentences using actually in a way that sounds warm and natural, not defensive, and share them in the comments below this episode.
Yes, we would genuinely love to read your sentences and celebrate your progress with you.
Language learning becomes so much more powerful when it's a shared journey, not something you do completely alone.
Absolutely. So don't be shy, join the conversation, and let's practice together as a community.
Let's talk about one more piece of the puzzle before we close. And this one is about sound, not just words, tone of voice.
Yes, this is so important. And honestly, it's often overlooked in grammar lessons.
Even a perfectly softened sentence can sound defensive if your voice is sharp, fast, or a little too flat.
For example, imagine saying, "I think there might be a small mistake here," but saying it very quickly with a rising, irritated tone. It can still feel confrontational, even without the word actually.
On the other hand, you could say a more direct sentence like, "Actually, that's incorrect," but with a warm, slow, friendly tone, and it can feel much gentler than it looks on paper.
So words matter, but delivery matters just as much, maybe even more in spoken conversation.
A simple tip here is to slow down slightly when you're correcting or disagreeing with someone. A calm pace naturally sounds more thoughtful and less reactive.
Another tip is to add a small pause before your correction, almost like you're thinking it through rather than jumping in immediately. That pause alone can completely change how your words land.
And of course, smiling while you speak, even on a phone call where nobody can see you, genuinely changes the warmth in your voice. It sounds strange, but it's true.
It really is true. Try it right now, everyone listening. Smile and say, "I think it might be Thursday, actually." Doesn't that feel completely different from a flat, serious tone?
Exactly. So as you practice everything we talked about today, remember, it's not only about which words you choose, it's about how you deliver them with warmth, patience, and genuine care for the person you're speaking with.